I want to let you in on a little secret. Your realtor owes you something. To find out what that is, stick around. Hey everybody, my name is Eddie Sprouse. I'm your best friend in the mortgage business. And I'm coming to you today to talk about what it is your realtor owes you. Now, this is true for buyers and sellers. And what that thing is honesty. That's what they owe you, honesty. So if you're a seller and you hire an agent, you're hiring them to be honest with you. If you're a buyer and you hire an agent, you're hiring them to be honest with you. That is an obligation, both morally and legally, that they have to you, is to deal with you honestly throughout the transaction. So, what does that look like? Well, if you're a seller, that means that your agent needs to tell you everything that goes into the transaction. They'll tell you honestly what things you might need to know in order to successfully sell your home. You're not hiring them to pat you on the back. You're not hiring them to lie to you or make you feel good. You're hiring them for their honesty about your property. And they have an obligation to both parties. Now you're going to say, wait a minute, if I hired them, they only owe something to me. That's not true. They owe honesty to all parties. If they know something about your property, maybe it's something you don't want to tell the other side, they have a duty to discover and disclose any material facts about the transaction. Now, that is within the state of North Carolina, okay? That's where my license is. I'm not a realtor. I have my real estate license. It's inactive, but I'm not an active real estate agent. So I'm going to talk about the laws according to the state of North Carolina. You need to check and find out what the laws are in your state. But at least in the state of North Carolina, if they know something about that property that maybe even you're trying to hide from buyers, they have a responsibility to discover those things and disclose. So that leaky basement where you've stacked up a bunch of empty boxes in front of the crack on the wall so no one will see it when they come to view your house. Well, that agent needs to move those boxes out of the way and look behind there and see if there's anything you're covering up. They need to go through each room in your house. They need to look to see, how does the electrical look to them? How does the plumbing look? Are there leaks in the ceiling? Are there signs of recently painted ceilings where you've tried to cover something up? And if there is, they need to stick their head in the attic and look up there for mold and wood rot and things like that. They need to look around the perimeter of your building that you're trying to sell, your home you're selling, and look for any kind of issues that might be a safety concern or, again, some kind of material fact that the other side needs to know. In other words, if any reasonable person would notice these things about a property, particularly another real estate agent, they have to disclose that to you. So let's flip it over to the buyer's side. Same thing goes for the buyers, okay? So when your agent goes through a house for you, they are trying to discover any issues with that house so they can disclose that to you. It's not as simple as them getting a phone call from you or a message saying, hey, I want to buy house 123 down there on Main Street, write up a contract that was put in an offer. If your agent doesn't at least take the time to go look at this house, they're doing you a disservice, okay? They're not a glorified order taker. They are responsible for making sure that everything the seller said about that house is true. So they've got to do their investigations about that. And that goes even further than just the house. They need to look at property taxes. They need to look at what insurance might cost on that particular dwelling. They need to look at any kind of special assessments that might have been levied against that property that you're going to want to know about. Let's say the HOA, let's say the house is in a development with an HOA, and the HOA has decided they're going to replace all the street lights, and all of a sudden the neighbors are going to be dividing up a very expensive special assessment that they're going to have to pay until those street lights are paid off. You're going to want to know that. They also need to discover and disclose to you anything that might be taking place near that house that maybe you've not even thought of. And I'll give you an example. So years and years ago, I was looking at a house in Charlotte, and it was in a beautiful setting, nice wooded lot, older home, but very well maintained. The price seemed a little bit low to me, so I started asking my agent questions about, why is this price so much less than some of the other houses outside of that immediate area we'd been looking at? And I got my answer pretty quickly. That particular house was only like a mile from the end of the Charlotte airport runway. So several times a day, jets were going to be flying over my house, creating a lot of noise and turbulence in the air. And they fly pretty late at night there. So that was going to be an issue. And that's something that, well, luckily I discovered it while I was still on the property. But what if I hadn't gone and toured it and I just told that agent, hey, write up an offer. Let's get that house under contract. I want to buy that house. That's the kind of thing where an agent can be such a benefit to you. Now, let's talk about the mortgage business, because after all, that's what I do for a living, okay? So you could do the same thing. You could fill out an application on a website for some big box bank, and they send it off to a glorified call center where someone goes through your application, pulls your credit, and either approves or denies your loan based on just what they see on the application, without any consideration at all how that's going to affect your overall financial picture. Okay? They're not going to be your advocate in the process. They are an order taker. If you want that house and they can get that loan approved, they're going to do it for you, and they're going to do it hell or high water. So you really need someone that's going to have some local knowledge of the area, someone that understands your financial goals and needs, someone you can call and get a hold of right away. Hey, I can't tell you how many clients I get that have been to one of these big box lenders, and they've talked to 5 or 6 different people about their loan, and they're not getting anything but the runaround, and no one seems to know what's going on with the loan transaction itself. I have others where the lender is so big, they could do something called grading their own paper. I had a client that when I was working up their loan to buy a house, their debt to income ratio came back at 75%. 75%. And that is of their gross income. We're not talking net income. We're talking their gross income. So it's income they don't even see. It's 75%. And some of that is income they'll never see because that's before taxes, right? So I told them, I said, unfortunately, this is more house than you can afford. So what did they do? They went to a big box lender, someone that could grade their own paper, and they got approved for a house with a debt ratio of 75%. And you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, Eddie, would a lender really do that to you? In a heartbeat, they'll do that because they don't care. As long as they can get your loan done, they don't care. If you end up in bankruptcy in 6 months or a year or foreclosure, they don't care. It's all a numbers game to them. And listen, you deal with somebody like me, I'm going to care about you and your family, all right? So you need to hire professionals. You need to hire people who have a duty to be honest with you, and people are going to look after your best interests. If you want to talk to me more about this kind of thing, my contact information is at the end of this video. I'll be glad to talk to you more about it one-on-one. And let's see what we can do for you. And hey, if you don't have an agent, I'd love to recommend some to you. I know some great agents out there who will do a fantastic job for you. God bless you and have a wonderful day.